greatest teacher, but most people run from it. They treat pain like an enemy, something to avoid at all costs. But here's the truth. Pain is not your enemy. It's your instructor. It's the one thing that refuses to let you stay the same. Pain says, change this. Pain says, grow here. And if you listen, if you pay attention, it can be the very thing that forges the strongest parts of you. Think back to a time when life knocked you down. Maybe it was a business deal that fell apart. Maybe it was a relationship that broke your heart. Or maybe it was simply the disappointment of knowing you could have done more, but you didn't. Whatever it was, that pain had two choices for you. Either let it break you or let it teach you. Most people, unfortunately, let it break them. They sit in the disappointment, replaying the setback over and over until the pain becomes a prison. But those who are determined, those who are willing to learn, take that same pain and use it as fuel. And that makes all the difference. I remember years ago, I watched a man lose nearly everything in a single year. His job, his savings, his marriage. It was brutal. But here's the interesting part. He told me later that it was the best year of his life. Now, that sounds strange, doesn't it? But here's why. That year forced him to take responsibility for his choices. It stripped away the illusions he had been living under. It forced him to toughen up, sharpen his habits, and finally build a life on solid ground. Without that pain, he admitted, he never would have changed. It was suffering that became the seed for a completely new future. See, pain has a way of exposing what discipline hides. You can talk about growth all you want. You can dream about success. But when pain shows up, it demands proof. It asks, are you really committed? Or are you just interested? And your answer is revealed not in words, but in how you respond. Do you retreat? Do you blame others? Or do you lean in, ask what you can learn, and get stronger? That choice right there is what separates the broken from the unbreakable. Here's the secret most people miss. Pain always carries a gift. Hidden inside the struggle is something valuable. An insight, a strength, a resilience that you cannot get any other way. You can read all the books, attend all the seminars, and learn all the theories. But some lessons you can only earn through pain. You've got to feel the weight of disappointment to understand the value of persistence. You've got to feel the sting of failure to appreciate the victory of success. You see, without that contrast, the lesson doesn't stick. And that's why I say, don't curse the pain. Don't waste it. If you're going through a hard season, don't just try to escape. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? How can this shape me? Because once you turn that pain into power, no one can take it from you. That's yours forever. And when the world tries to break you again, you'll find you're not weaker. You're stronger, tougher, and wiser than before. The world is not neutral. It's not waiting politely for you to find your path. The world is persuasive, demanding, and relentless. It pressures you every day. Pressures you to settle, to conform, to compromise just a little bit at a time. And if you don't build a strong enough mind, if you don't toughen up on the inside, the world will shape you instead of you shaping it. Think about it. Every commercial, every advertisement, every headline is pulling at your attention, trying to tell you what you need, what you lack, who you should be. And if you're not careful, you start living by someone else's script. You buy what they sell, you chase what they push, and before you know it, your whole life is being directed by outside forces instead of by your own decisions. That's why strengthening the mind is not optional. It's survival. Years ago, I had a young man tell me that his biggest struggle wasn't his job or his health. It was peer pressure. He was in his 20s, but he admitted that every choice he made was based on what his group of friends thought. If they mocked discipline, he mocked it too. If they laughed at someone working hard, he laughed too. He said it made him feel safe, but it left him empty. And he told me the turning point came when he finally realized that not one of those friends would live his life for him. They wouldn't carry his bills, they wouldn't heal his regrets, and they certainly wouldn't write his story. That was his responsibility. See, that's the danger of the world's pressure. It's subtle. It doesn't always show up as a big shove. It shows up as little nudges. A suggestion here, an expectation there. A raised eyebrow when you don't go along. And if you give in just a little at a time, you wake up years later wondering why your life doesn't look anything like the one you dreamed of. You gave the world too much say in how you lived. That's why you've got to build the habit of resistance. And I don't mean resisting everything. I mean resisting the wrong things. Resisting the pull toward laziness when discipline is what you need. Resisting the temptation of shortcuts when integrity is required. Resisting the crowd when the crowd is going in the wrong direction. That takes courage. That takes strength of mind. And that strength only comes from practice. Making small, daily choices to stand your ground when it matters. Look, if you don't set your own sail, you'll end up wherever the wind takes you. The world has 1,000 winds trying to blow you somewhere. Distraction, temptation, criticism, fear. And if you don't have a firm grip on your own direction, you'll drift. You'll end up at the wrong destination, wondering how you got there. The only way to avoid it is to toughen your mind so you can hold the course no matter how strong the wind blows. The real test of a strong mind isn't when everything is calm. It's when the pressure is the highest. It's when people are telling you, come on, don't be so serious, or why bother with all that discipline? That's the test. And if you can stand there, steady, unmoved, and still live by your principles, that's when you know you've built something solid inside. That's the kind of strength the world cannot break. When you toughen your mind, you don't just survive, you thrive. You're no longer pushed around by circumstances, or swayed by every opinion, or broken down by every setback. Instead, you find yourself walking taller, with a different kind of confidence. Not arrogance, but quiet strength. And people notice. They can see that you've got something inside that doesn't bend so easily. And the reward of that strength is freedom. Freedom from fear, because you've learned to face it and keep moving anyway. Freedom from the opinions of others, because you've built your life on principles instead of popularity. Freedom from the constant pull of distractions, because you've trained your focus to stay on what matters most. That's what toughness does. It gives you back your freedom. I've met people who had all the talent in the world, but lacked the mental strength to sustain it. They had great starts, but they couldn't finish. And I've also met people who weren't the most gifted, weren't the most skilled, but they had a toughness about them. They showed up every day. They did the work. They stood their ground. And in the end, they surpassed everyone else. Talent may get you started, but toughness keeps you going until you cross the finish line. Think about the workplace. The ones who keep advancing, the ones who rise up, they're not always the smartest or the loudest. Many times they're the ones who can handle pressure without folding. The ones who can hear no without quitting. The ones who can keep their head clear while everyone else panics. That's mental toughness. And the reward for that is trust. People trust you with responsibility when they see you can carry it. And it's the same in relationships. A tough mind means you don't explode every time something goes wrong. It means you listen before reacting. You think before speaking. That builds respect and builds stability. When you toughen your mind, you stop adding chaos to the world and start adding order. And believe me, the people around you notice the difference. They feel safer, stronger, more confident when they're with you. Another reward is resilience. Life will knock you down. It will. That's not up for debate. The question is, how quickly can you get back up? With a tough mind, you don't stay down for long. You process the setback, you learn the lesson, and you rise again. That kind of resilience is priceless, because it means nothing can keep you down permanently. Every defeat becomes temporary. Every failure becomes part of the story, not the end of it. I often remind people that the measure of toughness is not how strong you look when everything is easy. It's how strong you stay when everything is difficult. That's where the rewards show up, in those tough days, those unexpected challenges. And when you discover that you can stand, that you can endure, that you can keep moving forward, it changes the way you see yourself forever. You realize that you're stronger than you thought. And that belief stays with you. So, what does it all come down to? Life isn't waiting to see how tough you are. It's testing you every single day. Some days in small ways, some days in big ways. The question is, are you building the kind of mind that can stand up to it? Or are you leaving yourself unprepared, hoping the world goes easy on you? Because the world won't. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you decide to build. It's a choice. Every time you resist the easy path, every time you discipline your thoughts, every time you hold your ground, when pressure comes, you're shaping your mind. You're either training it to withstand life's weight, or you're letting life's weight crush it. There's no middle ground. And here's the truth. Toughening your mind doesn't just protect you. It expands you. It makes you capable of doing more, handling more, leading more. It makes you the kind of person who can take on responsibility, who can carry the load, who can walk into uncertainty without trembling. That's the kind of strength people rally around. That's the kind of strength that earns trust, respect, and opportunity. The world is filled with distractions, temptations, and pressures designed to break you down. If you don't prepare your mind, you'll find yourself breaking to them, little by little, until one day you wonder where your strength went. But if you prepare, if you build the habit of toughness, you'll stand firm while everyone else is falling apart. And when that day comes, you'll be glad you trained. You'll be glad you made the decision. Mr. Schoaf always said that life doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. And he was right. The difficulties don't disappear, but your ability to face them grows, your resilience grows, and eventually, the very things that used to intimidate you will barely rattle you. That's the payoff of a tough mind. It changes the way you face the world. So the challenge I leave you with today is simple. Don't wait. Start building your toughness now. Every day, test yourself. Every day, practice saying no to the easy option and yes to the disciplined one. Every day, remind yourself that the world is not in charge of your response. You are. You will barely rattle. That's the payoff of a tough mind. It changes the way you face the world. So the challenge I leave you with today is simple. Don't wait. Start building your toughness now. Every day, test yourself. Every day, practice saying no to the easy option and yes to the disciplined one. Every day, remind yourself that the world is not in charge of your response. You are. Build that habit. Strengthen that muscle. Toughen your mind. Because if you don't, the world will break it. But if you do, nothing in the world can. And that, my friends, is the difference between living life on your terms or letting life push you around. Choose wisely.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that has guided my entire life, and if you truly take it to
man chuyên trade sân.
This is Audible. Best loser wins. Why normal thinking never wins the trading game. Written by a high-stake day trader. Written by Tom Hugard. Narrated by Richard Faymanville. Dear Markets, from the moment I first came across you, I have been fascinated by you. I probably even fell in love with you. I was too young to know what that meant, no more than 10 years old. You were featured in a national newspaper, a competition of sorts. I was too young to play with you, so I observed. Time was not on my side. I was born a few decades too soon to participate in trading like it is possible today. I had to go and live my early life, and you went about yours. When you went through the devastating bear market of 1973, I was just learning to walk. When you roared with anger during the crash of 1987, I was just finishing school. When you took the first steps towards the epic 1990s bull market, I was almost ready, but not quite there yet. So, you sent me a message that would change my life, and I took you up on the invitation, leaving everything behind me to pursue you. I studied you at university, 2 degrees in fact. I toiled for hours and hours trying to understand you through the eyes of the conventional economic thinkers, through the eyes of Nobel Prize recipients, and through the eyes of well-meaning journalists and experts. I wish you could have told me back then not to bother. You are not an equation to be solved. You are far more complex than a model could ever capture. Over and over, you prove yourself to be the elusive mistress that no one ever truly understands. You are everywhere, and you are nowhere. Universal laws do not apply to you. My love for you was deep. You gave me so much joy. I gave you my all. You were there when I woke up, and you were there when I went to sleep. You have elevated me when I was fluid, rewarded me beyond my wildest dreams when I was flexible. You have punished me when I was rigid and stubborn, taking all your gifts back with interest. And boy, did I pursue you. I pursued you like a love-struck teenager. I approached you from all angles, from Fibonacci ratios to Keltner channels, to Bollinger Bands, to Trident strategies, as well as mythical vibrations of Gann and Murray math. I developed models of the tide swell in the Hudson River to see if you responded to that. I printed out thousands and thousands of charts, applying lines and circles, trying to find a way to dance with you so that my feet didn't get stamped on so much. I had sore toes, my love. Sometimes my toes were so sore that I had to go to the beach and just throw stones in the water for hours on end, angry that you didn't want to do the tango with me. You gave me sleepless nights. You gave me tears in my eyes, anger in my body, hurt in my soul, and yet I couldn't let you go. I knew there was more to it, and I knew I had to keep looking. I gave you everything because you made me feel alive. You gave me a purpose. You gave me challenges so hard even a drill sergeant would have to give you a nod of respect. And I will always love you for it. You kept me on my toes, like a parent wanting only the best for their child. But you made the lessons obscure. You designed it to look easy, but it was never easy. You made everyone believe that you could be danced with through models, through equations, through indicators, through conventional thinking, and through logic. But often there is little logic to you. And I struggled to dance with you for years, until one day, by chance, you told me your secret. You told me to stop trying to understand you. You told me to understand myself. I stopped trading. I took the time to understand myself, and I came back. And when I returned to the dance floor, you welcomed me with open arms, smiled, and said, "Welcome back. I see you get it now. Did you bring the Band-Aids?" And I did. Best loser wins. Preface. How you feel about failure will, to a very large degree, define your growth and your life trajectory in virtually every aspect of your life. You may want to close this book and think about that for a while. It is quite frightening how deep that sentence is. What 99% of traders do not realize is that they are looking for answers in the wrong places. Knowledge of technicals, fundamentals, indicators, ratios, patterns, and trend lines, well, everyone knows about them, and everyone loses. Except the 1%. What do the 1% do that the 99% is not doing? What am I doing, enabling me to have the success in trading that I have, which the others are not doing? The answer is as simple as it is complex. I am an outstanding loser. The best loser wins. I have conditioned my mind to lose without anxiety, without loss of mental equilibrium, without emotional attachment, and without fostering feelings of resentment or desire to get even. It is because of how my mind works that I am able to trade in the way that I do. My knowledge of technical analysis is average at best. My knowledge of myself is what sets me apart. The true measure of your growth as a human being is not what you know, but rather what you do with what you know. I wrote this book to describe how I transformed myself into the trader I am today, and how I was able to bridge the gap between what I knew I was capable of and what I actually achieved. Introduction. My name is Tom Hugard. I am 52 years old. 30 years ago, I left my native Denmark. I wanted to trade the financial markets, and I wanted to do it in London. I had an idea of what I needed to do to become a trader. I got a BSc in economics and an MSc in money, banking, and finance. I thought I had everything I needed to become a trader. The right kind of education, a good work ethic, and passion for the markets. I was wrong. On paper, I was qualified to navigate the financial markets. In reality, educational qualifications mean little in the dog-eat-dog world of trading. This book describes the journey I went through to get to where I am today. Where am I today? As I type this, I have not had a losing day in 39 trading days. I run a Telegram trading channel where my followers witness me make £325,000 in the last month alone, in real time, with real-time entries, money management, position sizing, and ultimately the exit of the position. No time delays, no lag, all done before their eyes, time stamped. This book dispels the myths of what it takes to be a home trader, or any trader for that matter. It has been a journey that saw me initially pursue the path that everyone else takes. A lot of books about a lot of indicators, patterns, and ratios, before finally realizing that the real answer to the elusive quest for trading profits was right inside of me all along. It truly was the last place I ever thought of looking. A promising beginning. After completing my university degrees, I started working for J.P. Morgan Chase. It wasn't a trading job, but it was close enough. Then in 2000, I became a home trader for a year and a half. It only lasted 18 months because I ran out of money. I had befriended the staff at the broker I traded with. They hired me as a financial analyst. I say analyst, but I was a glorified media whore. My mandate was to get the brokerage seen on TV, and my credentials were an understanding of technical analysis. I started that job in the summer of 2001. My first customer-facing experience was when the CEO brought me to Royal Ascot, a significant event in the social calendar of the rich and famous. It is a horse racing event mixed with champagne, funny-looking hats, and big cigars. Only the best and most lucrative clients were invited to this VIP event. On board the executive coach, taking the prestigious clients to Ascot, I was introduced as the new financial analyst. "Ask him anything," declared the CEO. One client asked me what I thought of Marconi. Marconi was a member of the FTSE 100. It had seen better days. It had declined from 1,200 pence to 450 pence over the preceding 12 months. "Do you think Marconi is cheap?" asked a pharmacist from Luton. I didn't know it at the time, but my answer, and a similar one on TV a few months later, would eventually get me fired from my job. Even if I had known, I would not have changed my answer. Marconi is garbage, gentlemen. Why are you chasing stocks that have fallen in price? The stock market is not like a supermarket, where it makes sense to buy toilet paper when there is a sale on. Sure, it makes sense to buy toilet paper at a 50% discount, but it makes no sense to buy a stock that has fallen more than 50%. Concepts like cheap and expensive may work in the world of Saturday grocery shopping, but not in the financial markets. My answer hung in the air like a morbid joke at a funeral. I had barely finished my verdict before I noticed the death stare from my boss. All these clients were long Marconi, and they would go on to lose fortunes. Later that year, I was on CNBC, and I was asked to do a chart analysis of Marconi. By that point, Marconi had fallen to 32 pence from 1,200 pence, and still people were buying it. I suggested that on the basis of the chart pattern, Marconi would go to zero. A few newspaper outlets picked up on the story, and a few days later I was called to the offices of Sporting Index. The CEO wanted to ask me if it was possible to get these Marconi comments deleted from that internet. Marconi went to zero, and I was asked to find another job. Fortunately, City Index hired me the same day I left Financial Spreads. I spent 7 years on the trading floor at City Index. In 2009, I was made redundant, and I have been a private trader ever since. I have spent the last 12 years of my life perfecting my craft. I am what brokers call a high-stake trader. The average stake size amongst retail traders is about 10 pounds per point risk. I risk anywhere from 100 pounds per point to 3,500 per point. On volatile days, I have traded in excess of 250 million pounds in notional value. I once made a little more than 17,000 pounds in less than 7 seconds. One time, I lost 29,000 pounds in 8 seconds. That kind of stake size sharpens the senses. Yes, it is a great life when it goes well, but a very challenging one when adversity sets in. This book describes my journey from an unemployed financial broker in February 2009 to the high-stake trader that I am today. But it is not a conventional trading book. Just another trading book? The world does not need more trading books. So, I decided not to write one. I know enough about technical analysis to write a few books. I also know that technical analysis does not make you a rich trader. It doesn't even make you a good trader. I had no ambitions of wanting to write a book, but one day, while I was watching a documentary on YouTube, an advert appeared on my monitor. I recognized the face immediately. It was a guy who once attended a few speeches I gave on technical analysis while I was working as a trader at City Index in London. Now he appeared in an advert promising to reveal the secrets to the financial markets through his courses. The advert proudly declared that if you wanted to learn to trade like a pro, then this course was what you needed. As it happened, a friend of mine had attended the course. It took place over a weekend in some plush offices in London. The place was packed, and the hopefuls hung on every word of this self-proclaimed guru as he took them through one chart after another. There was no critical thinking present. No one questioned his claims. Everyone left that office building on Sunday night thinking they would make a small fortune by the coming Friday. I saw the course notes. It was hundreds of pages of regurgitated material from the standard textbook on technical analysis. There was no original thought behind it. There were no new contributions to the field of technical analysis. Anyone with half an afternoon at their disposal could find the same material free of charge on the internet. More importantly, my friend told me the guru never missed an opportunity over the weekend to pitch additional products such as personal mentoring and the advanced course. Those who can, do. There is a saying that those who can, do, and those who can't, teach. I don't agree with that. There are many people who can and who also do. One is not exclusive of the other. Many great doers see it as part of their life mission to pass on knowledge to those around them. When I worked at City Index, I might not have been an oracle of technical analysis, but I certainly knew more than most of our clients. For that reason, I gave technical analysis lessons most evenings to our clients and the many white label clients that City Index had, such as Barclays Bank, Hargreaves Lansdowne, and TD Waterhouse. I truly enjoy passing on knowledge, and I did the best I could with the knowledge I had. However, what I didn't realize back then was that technical analysis is rather pointless unless it is combined with behavioral response training. My main beef with the many gurus teaching outrageously expensive weekend courses is their outcome focus. They are driving their agenda by the use of external stimuli, such as portraying themselves in a helicopter or on a private jet. And they portray trading as an easy profession to master, or one where there is a secret to be learned, and once in possession of this coveted secret, you become your own ATM. Rarely, if ever, will these gurus risk their reputation by disclosing their trades in real time. It is always after the fact. We never hear about their losing trades. This gives the illusion that losing is a mere inconvenience you experience from time to time when trading. It is only when you sit down in front of the screen on Monday morning, after your overpriced weekend course on trading, and the market is moving in front of you, and you don't have the after-the-fact chart in front of you, that you realize this game is not as easy as the guru told you during the weekend course. I have written a book that is an antidote to all the rubbish that is being peddled in the trading arena by charlatans who are 99% marketing and 1% trading. They preach their message to unsuspecting people, who sadly believe them, with neither the teacher nor the student realizing that they only got 10% of the story. More importantly, I have written a book which is all about the aspect of trading they never teach you, and how to get to the top of the trading pyramid. While writing this book, I saw an advert for a technical analysis course in my home country, Denmark. Only the year before, the person running the course had lost 35% of their trading capital on a copy trader account for their followers, before closing the account. That is the problem with technical analysis. It is very easy to learn, but it should not be touted as the path to untold riches in the financial markets. The gurus appear on adverts suggesting that all you need to make money from the market is to learn technical analysis. I wish it was that easy, but it isn't. If not technical analysis, then what? There is a law in Europe that states that brokers offering trading services to retail clients must disclose what percentage of their clients lose money. I looked up the major players in the industry. According to their websites, around 80% of their clients lose money. I called one broker to ask how this number was calculated. The number is adjusted quarterly. The broker compares the account balances of its clients from the prior quarter and simply takes the percentage of accounts that have a lower balance than 3 months earlier. If the answer to the trading quest was to study technical analysis, then you would not have default rates of 80%. Incidentally, the guru who gave a weekend course to my friend happens to also own a brokerage that he refers all his attendees to. I looked up its default rate. More than 80%. So either his clients are just awful traders, or he is an awful teacher. I will come to the rescue of both camps and state that to become a profitable trader, you need much more than just technical analysis under your belt. That is why I wrote this book, to describe the path I have taken to get where I am today. Over the last 30 years, I have read many books on technical analysis and trading techniques. I personally find most of them boring and pointless. All I see in these trading books is one perfect chart example after another. It creates an illusion in the mind of the reader. They absorb these conceited tales, written by traders who espouse the same material as everyone else, material that bears little resemblance to the real trading world. It leaves the reader blindsided to the reality of the trading arena. Of course, there are exceptions. There are some good books written on techniques and strategies, but most of them are garbage because the author suffers under the illusion that he or she should only show perfect trading examples. I dare say that if technical analysis as a subject was comparable to something like dentistry, the vocation would be terminated on account of the 80% failure rate. You don't have an 80% failure rate amongst dentists. The Million Views YouTube Talk. I was invited by one of the biggest brokers in the world to give a talk about the life of a home trader. They filmed the event, which lasted a few hours. I gave the speech a provocative title. Normal does not make money. The broker emailed me last year to say that my video had received 5 times more views than their second best video, and that it had now surpassed 1 million views on YouTube. This gave me confidence to push ahead with the book project, because I could see that my message resonated with an audience that wanted to move beyond the conventional teachings in trading. Although this is not a book about trading techniques, I am not arguing that you can do without technical analysis or some form of analysis. There must be some rhyme or reason to your entries and exits, and your stop-loss placement. However, I am also arguing that techniques alone will not make you rich. Analysis alone will not get you to where you want to be. I imagine you want trading to give you a meaningful side income, or perhaps even be your main income. I am arguing that a normal human being, displaying normal thinking patterns and traits, will never stand a chance of making money trading. In other words, normal won't cut it. One of the best books ever written on trading is Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. There is not a single mention of trading techniques in that book. Let's face it, we can all learn to walk a tightrope suspended 1 foot off the ground. However, can you walk across that same tightrope when it is suspended 100 feet off the ground? In the same vein, we can all trade bravely and aggressively when we are trading one lot. But can you trade with absolute clarity and emotional detachment when you are trading a 10 lot or a 100 lot? I can't guarantee you will trade 100 lots, but I will describe the process that got me to trade that kind of size. I am leaving no stone unturned. I have described every facet of life as a trader, from the mundaneness to the excitement, and I have described the exact steps I take every day, week, month, and year to ensure that I am up to the job. And let me immediately make an important declaration. I am not going to sugarcoat my message. It is an insanely difficult profession, one that is beyond the apparent mental abilities of almost everybody, yet at the same time a profession that will reward you with wealth beyond your imagination, once you understand how this game really should be played. This book describes how to play the game of trading. Now you know the end destination. If you don't like the sound of it, now is a good time to put down the book and go to the YouTube and TikTok videos and watch the Ferrari-driving 20-year-old trading coaches tell you how it is all done. If, however, you want lasting change, not only in your trading, but in how you live your life, then stay with me. Your transformation into a consistent trader will permeate other parts of your life. It will give you a deep understanding of who you are and what you can do to better yourself. The end result is not just more money on your trading account, but a more harmonious and exciting life journey. Liar's Poker. My journey as a trader started when I came across a book called Liar's Poker. I was home from school with flu, and my dad brought me some books from the library. Liar's Poker was one of them. It is a period piece written by Michael Lewis, the man behind the book The Big Short, which was made into a Hollywood blockbuster. In Liar's Poker, Lewis describes life as a bond trader during the excesses of the 1980s. In his own words, it was meant to serve as a warning to future generations about the gluttony of the finance industry, as well as a warning to young people wanting to work in the financial industry. I think it had the opposite effect. I suspect thousands of young men and women like me read the book and thought to themselves that Wall Street was the place to be. The book describes a young man traveling from America to Britain to study at a London university and subsequently being hired to work for an American investment bank. It describes what it was like to work on a trading floor and observe some of the big traders there. I was hooked, and I knew trading would be my vocation. I have since read many other books that are perhaps more specific about trading than Liar's Poker, but as a starter book, I could not have asked for anything better. My life changed after reading that book. It was a wake-up call. I went from being a skateboard-loving football fanatic to being a focused and driven individual. I had found my calling. I started applying to university degree courses around Europe. I already had a job at a pension fund as an office trainee. After reading the book, I knew that would not be my end destination. I got accepted to a university in Britain for the following year, but I had a problem. There was no funding. I had to pay my own way. I worked all hours, day and night. During the day I would work at the pension fund, then in the evening I would skate 5 miles to an amusement park to work there until 1 a.m. I absorbed as much information as I could from the Danish finance pages. I would read English books to improve my language skills. My family was less supportive. On the big day of departure, I had to make my own way to the airport. They eventually came around and shared my trials and tribulations throughout the years. My sister once told me she chewed her nails the first time she saw me on TV. She was so nervous I would freeze on air. My first big trade. There is a saying in the financial markets that perfectly sums up my first brush with speculation. Don't confuse talent with luck. I was blind to the ways of the financial markets, but I got incredibly lucky. It was September 1992. I had just been accepted to my university. I had worked hard to earn enough money to finance the tuition fees and living expenses for 3 years, although I was a little short. I figured I would work through the holidays to make up for the shortfall. As I was packing up my home and preparing myself to journey to the United Kingdom for my first year as a university student, there was a proverbial hurricane blowing through the currency markets. The UK was a member of the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM. This was a system introduced by the European Economic Community to reduce exchange rate variability and achieve monetary stability in Europe. The UK joined the ERM in 1990, but by 1992, the UK was in a recession. The Bank of England found it more and more difficult to honor their commitment to maintain the British pound within a tight band against other currencies in Europe. Speculators were actively betting against the pound, thinking that it was heavily overvalued. As I was walking to my local bank in Denmark with my savings, looking to exchange my Danish kroner for British pounds, a major drama was unfolding in the financial markets. It was called Black Wednesday. On 16 September 1992, the British government was forced to withdraw the pound from the ERM after a failed attempt to keep the pound above the lower currency exchange limit mandated by the ERM. I found the following information about Black Wednesday on Wikipedia. It sets the tone well for what I was about to experience and what caused a massive windfall for a 22-year-old aspiring trader. Soros's Quantum Fund began a massive sell-off of pounds on Tuesday, 15 September 1992. The exchange rate mechanism stated that the Bank of England was required to accept any offers to sell pounds. However, the Bank of England only accepted orders during the trading day. When the markets opened in London the next morning, the Bank of England began their attempt to prop up their currency as per the decision made by Norman Lamont and Robin Lee Pemberton, the then Chancellor of the Exchequer and Governor of the Bank of England, respectively. They began buying orders to the amount of £300 million twice before 8:30 a.m. to little effect. The Bank of England's intervention was ineffective because Soros's Quantum Fund was dumping pounds far faster. The Bank of England continued to buy, and Quantum continued to sell, until Lamont told Prime Minister John Major that their pound purchasing was failing to produce results. At 10:30 a.m. on 16 September, the British government announced a rise in the base interest rate from an already high 10% to 12%, to tempt speculators to buy pounds. Despite this and a promise later the same day to raise base rates again to 15%, dealers kept selling pounds, convinced that the government would not stick with its promise. By 7 that evening, Norman Lamont, then Chancellor, announced Britain would leave the ERM and rates would remain at the new level of 12%. However, on the next day, the interest rate was back on 10%. This was, of course, all unbeknownst to me, yet it had a material impact on my studies. Had I walked down to the bank just a few days earlier, I would have had to pay close to 12 Danish kroner for £1. By sheer luck, I walked straight into and benefited from one of the biggest modern-day currency crashes, and I was able to convert my Danish kroner at an exchange rate of about 9 kroner to the pound. I made an extra 4,000 pounds from my savings. My annual budget with tuition and lodging was 2,500 pounds. Uncle George made my university education debt-free. Although the day was called Black Wednesday, many historians argue it was a Golden Wednesday because the cheaper pound attracted investment. It set the stage for an economic growth spurt in the United Kingdom. The price for the hot dog in Paris. I wasn't the only one who made a life-changing amount of money that day. George Soros made $1 billion. It cemented his name as one of the greatest speculators of all time. And he wasn't the only one who had noticed stark value differences between the European currencies before that fatal day in September of 1992. Another trader had too. Actually, he wasn't a trader at all. He owned a printing company in East London. We shall call him the Englishman. When I started working in the city of London, I heard the story of